Alright guys, it's Soccerholics TV. As always, my name's Ben, this is Chris. We're here at Football Factory and we're here in the presence of a legend, Mr. Stephen Caldwell. Former player of TFC, numerous Premiership clubs.
He's not just a former player, he's the former captain. Get your facts straight, sir.
Right,
I'm sorry, Sir Stephen.
And a captain. And also, you probably know him, best known from his coverage of soccer on TSN. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for
as
having
always.
me.
So, I want to talk to you about business in soccer.
Yep.
A topic that I am quite passionate about, that I spoke about many on the show a lot.
Yep.
Is I want to get your point of view. Are players' salaries getting out of hand? And the second part of that question is, do you think a salary cap should be put in place across the 5 leagues in Europe?
Yeah, interesting question. I'm going to answer it like an ex-player, and I don't think they're getting paid too much money, and I'm going to explain why. Because there's a lot of money in football, you know, and somebody has to get that money, and who better to get that money than the players that actually have people turn up, generate the cash, you know. So
Exactly.
One thing I am going to say on that is that the top players, in my opinion, deserve the astronomical salaries that they get, but I think sometimes the kind of moderate players probably get paid a little bit too much in leagues like the Premier League, and some other leagues. You're always going to get people who are slightly overpaid.
You know what I mean? Like, I see them basketball to relate to some different sports where, like, it's your contract year. An excellent example to bring it back to soccer, though, was Walcott in his contract year. He got, I think it was 15 goals, 15 assists that season across all competitions. Stats are obviously could be wrong, but he showed up. We gave him a contract. And he's kind of, you know, tailed off, you know what I mean? And you can name any player at any club, regardless of level. They'll do that to win their contract, you know, live comfortably for a year or two. But the other thing I wanted to touch on, because I had the chance to speak with one guy that got to talk to Alexis Sanchez, and that's the big, I guess you would say, like, scandal over at Arsenal. Should we pay him? Should we not? But, like, there's that aspect. How is you're dealing with player agents? Because that's the part that I feel most soccer fans are kind of like neglecting.
Yeah.
They're just always blaming their hate on the player because the player's who they see. Yeah. But you only hear player agent. You never hear that the player's agent name is Andy or something, for instance. So what's your take on that? Seeing as
well, again, it's a business, and they guys see an opportunity to earn money and inflate prices, and you obviously, again, you have good ones and you have bad ones, and I think that the good ones have a certain sense of respect. They have great relationships with chief executives and owners and general managers throughout the world. So, you know, and they deserve that respect. And then you get the other ones who try and push things and play one team against the other and are really in it just to make money for themselves. And they're the kind of people that we don't want to see in the game. But I do think there's some great agents out there. I do think there's some great players out there that deserve the levels of pay that they get and that they're asking for. I'll reiterate again, there's other players that are paid too much money that don't deserve it through a lack of effort, a lack of quality, or whatever that may be. But I think it happens in every sport, Ben, to your point. It's in basketball, it's in baseball, the money's there. If the money's there and they're trying to pay these athletes or these sportsmen the huge numbers, then you're going to get some right and you're going to get some wrong, unfortunately.
But then if a salary cap was to be put in place across these European leagues, then teams down the end of the table actually have a chance.
So financial fair play is a kind of way trying to create some kind of salary cap in Europe, where they can't try to keep a lid on what you spend to determine to what kind of club you have. I get what you mean, that salary cap would then mean that other teams can compete at that level, but unfortunately, and this is why the Premier League's as good as it is that, you know, you're kind of forced to keep up to that level. You kind of push to spend more and more money, which keeps the thing moving forward. I like that. I kind of miss that a little bit here. It's nice how you go into a season and any team can win MLS Cup, but it's also good to have your top franchises and the organisations that spend money to drag the rest along and improve the overall standard of the league.
Yeah, I totally understand it, but I personally feel like it's people are. They're not playing really for the love of the game anymore. They once were. Like, I mean, if you think about when you played, I'm assuming the salary from what you were getting to now has just risen 1,000%.
But that's a society thing as well, in my opinion. The way people are playing different, kids are brought up different. You know, it's just a real society thing, a problem we have in every sport, in every walk of life, really. You know, so we would have to address that. For that point of view, I don't think it's so much about the salaries, but yes, things come too easy to young kids now. They get paid crazy sums of money at 17 years old, you know, when they've not even achieved one thing,
exactly.
you know. So I agree with you in that case. When it comes to the top level, like I said before, I think they deserve everything they get, because they're the guys that ultimately make this game what it is, and make us all watch our TVs or pay whatever sums and ticket money to go and visit and watch a player live.
But how do we fix that now? So like, if these players, for instance, let's say, you know, your son or daughter eventually goes pro in whatever professional league, for instance, and they get paid the base salary, like let's say like 20K euros. How do we solve that issue? Is there a way that, like, should we have like former players setting up like academies, for instance, of education of how players should be financially managing their monies? Because, like, for instance, you brought up the point with some of the South American players going over to China, for instance. A good point I brought up was some of these guys are coming from poor environments naturally, so I know it sucks that they're going for the money, but that money is to go back into their own communities, so that way they can reproduce. So that way you can have, like, for instance, one of our former guests, our other legend on here, Canu, he has Canu Academy, so he's helping the Nigerian community within here, Toronto, for instance, to promote stuff.
Look, I know that there's a love of the game for football, and obviously every player and every kid and every fan has that, but at the end of the day, it's a profession and it's a job, and every walk of life, if you work for BMO Bank and Scotiabank want you, then they pay you extra money. Majority of people leave and they go and work for Scotiabank.
It's
so
true.
It's the same kind of thing, and the passion that's in this game means that fans always expect loyalty from the player, but in the same instance, that club would move that player on if his performances dipped and would not renew his contract. So you have a small window to make as much money as you want, and it's not always about making money, but if you have an opportunity between two clubs and one's going to pay you more, and you think there's the potential to go and win trophies and be successful there, then why would you not go?
Like, you do see club loyalty, like Marco Reus, for instance. He didn't leave Borussia Dortmund, for instance, even though that they did the fire sale of Lewandowski, Kagawa came back, Götze came back as well after leaving. So Lewandowski obviously still at Bayern, but, like, you know, some clubs are just so used to selling. Like, even one of the good teams that played yesterday against Roma, Lyon, for instance, they've been, Lacazette's apparently supposed to leave apparently in the summer. Like, you know, you're hearing the rumor mills go. It's just the system of how these clubs work. It's unfortunate, but
but that is a system. You know, you have like a Porto or a Sporting Lisbon's another good example, Lyon, where the whole point is to have a good academy to create these excellent players, to then move them on for certain amounts of money and hope that you have that next 17 or 18-year-old Lacazette in the background who's ready to step up and progress again, and that's the whole ethos of that club, and I'm absolutely fine with that. And you have the super clubs like a Juventus or a Bayern Munich or a Manchester United, you could say, where it's always about success and spending money and having the best and the biggest players come and play for their team.
I want to so I just want to touch on that. How worrying is it now? I want to get your opinion on the Chinese Super League. How worrying is it that they are poaching these players? Like I was, you know, really angry at Oscar, 25 years of age, went there for money. Even Conte said, and Jurgen Klopp said, like Conte said, and like, this is like, what's the world coming to when you have to leave for that? How worrying is it? Because it's happening, isn't it? People are gonna, like, Rooney may even go. But that's fine because he's at the end of his career. But
I don't think it's worrying, because at the end of the day, every league, every country has the opportunity to develop that sport in their country. So I think, respect to the Chinese Super League, at this point we're all kind of up in arms about it, because they're taking these fantastic players that we feel have the potential to still play at a high level in Europe. But who's to say MLS didn't do a version of that a few years back,
and
with,
you can
with
even
bringing
say
in
with
the
the
older
EPL.
guys, you know. So I think that if they have the idea to bring in the infrastructure for the league, to develop their young players, to spend money in their academies, to make the league overall stronger, then I have no problem with them bringing in an Oscar or a Ramirez.
Because you need those leaders. Like, for instance, like, just why you were brought here, you were here to help bring in some of those Canadian players and give them, you know, the edge over some of the other MLS teams, for instance. You know, that experience that we don't have yet to get to that level. So,
but again, like, as there's no salary cap in place in China.
No,
right?
but
there is here in the MLS. That's the big
worry
difference.
that I have about something like that, Ben, is that it can really just crash, you know, and that would be a big concern, you know, because, you know, these companies have huge amounts of money, but as long as there's a plan and there's a progression to how to actually develop the league through academies and youth players in China and domestic players, then I'm absolutely okay with them spending any sum of money on bringing a guy from South America or Europe or wherever to the league.
A brand name, just like Beckham did.
It's fine.
MLS.
It helps the league grow,
Yeah.
and it gives it allows a superstar to be put on a pedestal and these kids to strive to be as good as that. So, like I say, I don't know enough about it to say how much they're spending and how much infrastructure they're putting into it. But as long as that's the case, I have no problem with it.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
I think I had one more question that I wanted to ask. It was along with like the merchandise side. So for instance, one that I pointed out in a previous show that we did was Bale and Neymar. So Neymar's moved to Barcelona, and Barcelona is sponsored by Nike, and Bale moved to Real Madrid, sponsored by Adidas, and then I guess you can even recently cite the whole Pogba move to Manchester United was helped by Adidas as well. Brand alignment with shoes and those companies such as Puma, Adidas, Nike, and all the other companies as well. Is that also playing a role in the business of sport as well, of moving players as well?
Yeah, I think it certainly is. I think there's no coincidence. The first one I remember with that was Brazilian Ronaldo when he went to Inter Milan. I think they were a Nike team at the time, and that was what was mentioned at the time, and it kind of shocked us all then because it was the first time a superstar had went because of the manufacturer of his clothing and his footwear. So, it's no real surprise to me, but I definitely think it helps because I think that company then funds a part of that deal, and I don't see that changing. I always think that the top, we're talking about the top 1 to 5%, marketable soccer players in the world, Neymars and Bales and Ronaldos and Messis. These kind of guys are just another level when it comes to marketing, and I'm sure that'll always happen as long as these companies have such a huge say in the football club.
Okay.
It's big business.
It is business.
All right, guys. So much time we have for today, but stay tuned. Steven's going to stick around. Again, follow us on Twitter at Soccerholics TV, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Soccerholics TV. My name's Ben. This is Chris. Thanks again to Football Factory for hosting us, and we'll see you on the next one.
Ben's in a suit.
I'm in a suit.